Shall I compare these to a summer's day? I mean, it is undeniably the most famous opening line in all of English poetry, right? If you've ever attended a wedding, watched a romantic movie, or, just survived a high school literature class, you absolutely know it. But how often do we actually stop and look at how this beautiful piece of machinery was put together? Well, let's dive into this. Today, we are going to deconstruct a literal literary masterpiece. We're going to look at exactly how a 400-year-old poem manages to remain completely, stubbornly unforgettable.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, our focus is the anatomy of a masterpiece, how Shakespeare crafted Sonnet 18. We are moving way beyond just casually reading a beautiful poem today. We're going to pop the hood. We'll examine the specific architectural blueprints, the mathematical constraints, and the absolute linguistic brilliance that William Shakespeare used to engineer this iconic piece of literature.
Here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, the most famous English poem. Second, the Shakespearean blueprint. Third, deconstructing the summer metaphor. Fourth, the stylistic secrets. And finally, number 5, the promise of immortality.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the most famous English poem.
The architect behind all this is, of course, William Shakespeare. Born in Stratford-upon-Avon, he spent his career as an actor, a playwright, and a poet in London, before his death in 1616 at just 52 years old. And his output? It was simply massive. We are talking about 39 plays, including absolute titans like Hamlet and Macbeth, plus 2 long narrative poems and a vast collection of shorter verse. He was a master of the English language, creating works that have literally shaped storytelling for generations. Now, the number 154 is actually crucial here. Shakespeare published a collection of exactly 154 sonnets back in 1609, and Sonnet 18 is just one of them. Scholars actually divide this entire collection into 2 distinct groups. Sonnets 1 through 126 are addressed to an unnamed young man known as the fair youth, while the later sonnets are addressed to a dark lady. So Sonnet 18 sits right there in the fair youth sequence. And interestingly, the sonnets right before it repeatedly urge this young man to marry and have kids so he can pass on his beauty. But Sonnet 18, it marks a massive, dramatic shift in strategy. Yet, out of all 154, this one remains his undisputed greatest hit. Moving on to Section 2, the Shakespearean blueprint. Okay, so you really can't talk about Shakespeare without talking about iambic pentameter. This is the foundational mechanical engine of the entire sonnet. Every single line in Sonnet 18 has exactly 10 syllables arranged in 5 pairs. Each pair is an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed one. Think of it like dud-dum, 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 dud-dum. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? It literally mimics a human heartbeat. Working within this super rigid metric constraint requires incredible skill, ensuring the poem has a steady, organic melody without ever feeling forced or, artificial.
And this brings us right to the macro structure of the poem. Think of a Shakespearean sonnet like a perfectly balanced 14-line machine, built using 4 functional architectural units. Step 1 is the first quatrain. That's a 4-line unit that sets up the comparison. Step 2 is the second quatrain, which builds the argument by listing out flaws. Step 3 is the third quatrain, where we get this dramatic twist in the logic. And finally, step 4 is the rhyming couplet, just 2 punchy lines that deliver the concluding payoff. It is an incredibly precise mechanism for delivering a rhetorical argument. All right, Section 3, deconstructing the summer metaphor. We normally think of summer as the ultimate compliment, right? Like, you're as beautiful as a summer day. But look closely at how Shakespeare actually uses it. In the first 8 lines, he completely trashes the summer's day just to elevate his beloved by comparison. I mean, he points out that rough winds shake the darling buds of May. He uses the legal financial term lease to point out that summer's time is legally bound to end way too soon. He notes the sun is sometimes way too hot or obscured by clouds, and that literally all beautiful things eventually decline by chance or just nature's changing course. In stark contrast to all of that, his beloved is physically more lovely, has a more temperate or balanced personality, and possesses a beauty that is entirely unfading. He essentially tears down summer just to lift his subject up.
And then we hit line 9, but. Let's just pause here for a second, because this is what poetry nerds call the volta, or the turn. This single tiny word acts as a massive mechanical pivot. The entire momentum of this explainer and the poem itself shifts right here. Shakespeare's just spent 8 lines logically proving that everything in nature fades and dies. And then he drops this but declaring, "But thy eternal summer shall not fade." He is completely stepping outside the rules of nature.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, the stylistic secrets.
Take a look at the sheer data behind his word choice here. Sonnet 18 is incredibly profound, sure, but it is not made of complicated words. In fact, get this, 79% of the poem, that's 90 out of its 114 words, are sharp, single-syllable words. And in that final two-line couplet, every single word is just one syllable. This is the absolute secret to the poem's punchiness and clarity. Short words are direct, they're bright, they're quick, they're easy to absorb, making the rhythm feel incredibly natural and driving that emotional impact straight home.
Beyond just word length, Shakespeare is doing some brilliant linguistic gymnastics to bend the language to his will. First, he uses personification, calling the sun the eye of heaven with a gold complexion dimmed. Giving the sun human traits like a complexion subtly degrades this massive celestial body, showing it's just as flawed and human as we are. Later on, he personifies death as this bragging figure wandering in the shade, totally stripping death of its ultimate power. And as a master craftsman, he uses elision, which is basically dropping letters to make words like dimmed and oust into dimmed and oust, just so he can perfectly maintain that strict 10-syllable heartbeat without skipping a single beat.
And finally, Section 5, the promise of immortality. In the third quatrain, Shakespeare makes this breathtakingly bold claim. He writes, "When in eternal lines to time thou growest." He's proposing a purely secular, artistic form of eternity. Remember earlier we mentioned he was previously urging the fair youth to have children to pass on his beauty? Well, right here, he abandons biology altogether. He claims immortality won't come from natural reproduction, and it won't even come from the afterlife. It will come from being permanently fixed inside the eternal lines of literature. He's drawing on classical traditions here. Think of the Roman poets Horace and Ovid, who claimed their verses would outlast physical bronze monuments, to argue that art ultimately is the greatest preserver of life. And that brings us to the final rhyming couplet, the grand finale, the mic drop. "So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee." This is Shakespeare totally flexing his own unparalleled writing skills. He is essentially stating that he has just built a literary time machine capable of conquering death itself. As long as human beings possess breath to speak and eyes to read, this very poem will survive. And because the poem survives, the beloved youth captured within those 14 lines will just continue to live forever. Poetry outlasts time.
So I want to leave you with this final, kind of mind-bending thought. Did you just participate in Shakespeare's immortality experiment? Seriously, by spending the last few minutes engaged in this explainer, actively learning about this poem and reflecting on its subject, you literally just proved a 400-year-old point. You breathed life into those lines, and you kept the beloved alive today. That is the true enduring power of a literary masterpiece. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep seeking out the brilliant structures hiding behind beautiful art.